Hi everybody, Coach Allison back, Defy Aging Week 24 to review with you this time. And we've got a kind of a longer circuit than normal. It's actually going to be 9 exercises this week in our circuit. And we're going to be on the turf rotating around. We have 3 rotations to get through. And what's going to make this routine this week just a little bit different is kind of our shorter rest times. So we're going to be working at an interval breakdown of 30 seconds on, that's pretty typical, 30 seconds on, 20 seconds off. And because of the shorter rest times, we are going to do a 1-minute break between each of the 3 rounds. So you have a little more time between each round to sort of catch your breath, get a drink of water, and sort of regroup yourself before we start the next round. So quick transition times from one station to the next. I tried to make it so there wasn't anything too cumbersome and too sticky to get in and out of, and kind of to start and stop, and equipment that's not too tricksy to sort of maneuver in and out of, like last week where we had the TRX putting the heels in, but we had longer transition times. So nothing like that. So it should be pretty easy to get from one station to the next in that 20 seconds. But what that also means is that 20 seconds is going to kind of be taken up really quickly with just the amount of time it takes to get from, station A to B and B to C. So it will be, aside from the fact that there's 2 stations that are specifically cardio, just the fact that the breaks are so short, it will feel very aerobic this week. Okay, so be ready for that. But anyways, 9 exercises, 3 rounds, and then of course we do have a little team builder at the end. Okay, so let's go through our exercises. Station 1 is going to be a kettlebell halo to an overhead press. We do the halo a lot, but I think combining it with the overhead press, I've actually only put in the programming once before. So this might be new for many of you. We start a kettlebell halo, we have to start with the bottoms up position. So you're going to flip it up like this. Okay. It is going to probably mess up your hair a little bit. So I hope you don't have any strong opinions about that. Although for anyone with a hair clip or a ponytail in, it does kind of bump into that. So it can be a little annoying. So anyways, bottoms up. So this is a shoulder mobility exercise. And then of course, if you go heavier with the weight, it's going to add some strengthening too. So we rotate the kettlebell around the head. That's the mobility. And then when you get back to the front, we're going to add a press, overhead press in. Little cognitive challenge here too, trying to remember which direction you went each time, because we want to alternate the direction as well. So now I'm going to go around this way, back to the front, up, down, switching direction. Also, there is some core involved here, believe it or not, because you want to keep your belly button kind of pulled in, kind of keeping this all strong and sturdy, to kind of avoid like needing or wanting to sort of, have too much body movement here. So you want to keep the belly button pulled in so you can keep the stabilized in the abs and back. Again, avoiding any like overly arching or leaning or tilting. You want to keep the kettlebell low and tight, or low and close. So we want to avoid keeping it like way up here. Instead, keeping it low, as close to the clavicle, shoulders as you can, and tight into the head. Okay? So pretend you're just trying to like graze yourself with it. Okay, so I think you get the gist. That is our kettlebell halo to overhead press. All right, the next one's kind of different and fun. It's a slider plate drag. We need a slider. All the clubs have these. They all look a little different. And we need plates, weight plates that we used last week for the overhead carry. 5s, 10s, and 25s are probably going, 5s are, probably going to be the options that we're going to be using, because the next weight up is the 35. That's going to be a little ridiculous. Show you what we're going to do. I wish there was like 15 pounds, man. That would be like perfect, I think, for some people, but there isn't. And stacking the 5 on top of the 10, I don't think will work for this. So you put the slider down, and then you put the plate on top of the slider. All right. 1 foot on top of all of that. Okay. We're basically pulling the plate in. So we're kind of doing an adduction. You know that machine where you sit and then you kind of like squeeze the legs in or press the legs out? It's an ab or adduction machine. Kind of doing that thing, that same effect here. So you take a step out, And then using these, it's technically your hips, but you're kind of using the inner thighs. You are dragging this along with you. Next step out, drag. Next step out, drag. Okay, so you would keep going in her coach level long stretch, go in one direction. At the 15-second mark, you'll switch legs, but I'm out of frame, so I'm going to switch now. You get the gist. Drag, big step, drag. So you're using these inner thigh muscles. So that's where I feel like stacking the 5-pound plate on top of that to make 15 wouldn't work because you would drag the 5-pounder off of that. The next weight up for the plates is a 25. But with that slider on the ground, 25 would be, it would be doable. It takes some practice. The first round might be a total disaster because it takes some time. You have to figure out a good balance of pressing your foot into the floor and then also dragging. So it takes it takes a little feeling out. So, the first, you might kind of like your foot might slip off, that's fine. It takes a little feeling out. Yeah. So also, last thing I will say, if you can't find the perfect weight, like this was a little bit light for me, the 10 pounds, but I think the 25, let's say the 25 was too heavy, so you couldn't find a perfect medium, try it without the slider. The traction of the turf might make just the perfect challenge level then. So let's, now I'm dragging. Yeah, that added a lot more challenge because it took out the smoothness of the slider. So you can try all sorts of things to try to find the perfect resistance level because we don't have all of the weight options with the plates, okay? So something's going to be new and different, some new muscles that you might be feeling, give it a try. Station 3 really needs no introduction. It's jumping jacks. That's one of our cardio movements. So I think everybody knows jumping jacks. We do want those full arm swings. We're trying to avoid kind of little movements. If we aren't doing jumps, totally fine. We'll turn it into a step jack. Start over on one side. Do a nice full step with each rep. Trying to avoid the taps only. The taps aren't bad or wrong or incorrect. You do, though, get more movement and therefore just a little more out of it if you do the full step. So full arm swing with each full step if you're going to do that option and take out the jump. So that is station 3. All right, station 4, we're going to do a Superman W raise. It's another of the many variations of Superman. So this one's a little more shoulder friendly. So tends to be a little bit easier. And there's going to be a variation to make it a progression. Got some light weights, and I'll show you that. So you don't really need to see my lower body. The lower body lifts just like a normal Superman, okay? So normal Superman arms are straight out. We're actually going to pull them back like this. Ugh. And so you can kind of see how it makes a W, right? Do you get that? How it makes a W shape? That's why it's called a W raise. I don't know what else to call it. We're going to keep those elbows tucked back at all times. So it's not, really, you can't see what I'm feeling, but I want you to really feel that you're pulling the elbows back towards your rib cage here. Okay, keep the head looking down so you have a neutral neck. And from here, we do the normal lift and lowering of the Superman. Okay. All right. It's already challenging. If you want to add a light progression, grab some light weights. I have 2s. I would not go heavier than 3s. 1, 2s, or 3s. So all you'll do is hold the weights here. Everything's the same. Tuck those elbows back. And we're really just adding. And maybe you could go up to 5s, but you wouldn't go super heavy here because we don't want those hands to be kind of drooping down like this. This is what we don't want. So that's why we don't want to go too heavy if you're going to add any weight here. So again, you're lifting as much of the torso off the floor and your legs as you can. I'm going to show you a way you can do this staying off the floor. It's going to involve an incline bench. So I'm going to take my camera over to the benches. If you are someone staying off of the floor, coach will have an incline bench ready in the space. We've done this before. Straddle it like this, and then you lean forward on it. It's at a higher than a 45-degree angle, so you're not coming too far forward. So you're fully supported here, and really it's the same thing. Put your arms in line with your body, tuck your elbows back, and gonna kind of hyper extend from the back, okay? So you're not using as much against gravity as the folks on the floor. but we're still getting that same posterior chain. We're still getting that lift, still tucking the elbows back. Okay, this one's set up maybe a little high. Maybe I would go one setting lower, but you get the gist. But that's a great alternative. Your coach might have another alternative that they know that targets the same relative muscles. So they might have a different alternative for you, but this would be my suggestion. All right, next we have a weighted step up. So we want to challenge the weight this week. So if anything, to kind of accommodate, we want to take the height of the step down as opposed to dropping the weights and using no weight. So I'm going to do a weighted step up this week. You can use dumbbells or kettlebells, whatever is more comfortable for you. So we're going to switch the leading leg halfway through the set. So continue leading with the same leg for the full first 15 seconds. So I'm starting with my left leg. I'm just going to go up left, down left. Don't overthink it. Up left, down left. Should flow pretty smooth. You're not switching legs or anything for the first 15 seconds. Just up, same leg as up and down with the same leg. Up left, down left. After the first 15 seconds, your coach will call out halfway. Now I'm going to switch. Up right, down right, up right, down right. Not doing anything fancy with the weights, just holding them. So we're just adding resistance. We're adding load. So that's we're not curling them, we're not lifting them, we're not pressing them, just adding some weight. So pick an appropriate weight for you. Of course, weight is always a progression. So if these are newer for you, you don't feel sturdy or stable with them, definitely leave them aside. But it's always a progression. But if you feel ready, let's grab some weights this week for our step ups. We got more TRX this week, but nothing that's complicated getting in and out of it. We've done this before. Wide row. Okay, there's 3 basic variations in which to do a row for the TRX. So this week we're going to do the wide row. I think it's also called like the overhand row. Although even with the overhand position, you can do narrow or wide. So we are going to do the wide row. So you have an overhand position like this as opposed to under or neutral. Okay, so your fingernails should be facing the floor, if that helps. Start obviously in the reclined position, you're back here. So we don't want to be like overly arched, but we don't want to be, hips bent or anything. So nice plank position. And this would be kind of pulling up narrow. See how my elbows are tucked in, but we want to go wide. So watch my arms. They flare out wide, but my hands, my forearms, my elbows, and my shoulders are all at the same level continually actually. I was going to say at the top of the pull, but even at the bottom, so even right here, they're always at the same level. See that? I don't know if never know the best angle to put the camera to get the best view to demonstrate this, but maybe this is better? Kinda, no, yes, I don't know. But I think you get the idea. And notice how my body position never changes. So when I'm back here, I'm not letting my hips bend. When I'm up here, I'm not letting my hips thrust. So I'm always staying in that nice plank position. When I pull to the top, I'm not pulling with any force at all, meaning I'm not like pulling up like this and creating any slack on the TRX. It's a controlled pull. I stop when there's still tension on the TRX. So I'm not coming up far enough where there's any slack here. So stop before that happens. But again, what I really want to drive home is the wide position with the appropriate position of the arms. Maybe this is a better angle. We'll try one more angle. Elbows flare out. Arms are all level. All the hand, wrist, elbows, and shoulders are all level with one another. So not down here, not flared up here, just level. One last thing, watch out for wrists. Always want a straight, strong wrist. So when you're pulling up, don't do any curling of the wrists like this. Just always a straight, strong wrist. Okay? Next station is a core station plank. But we're going to do a high plank this week. We almost always do a low plank, which means you're on your forearms. Let's do a high plank. The reason we typically do a low plank is to just keep that wrist flexion and that wrist pressure at a minimum. I'm going to toss in a high plank this week. If you do have any issues or discomfort with wrist pressure, which we also do with push-ups, and we do a lot of push-ups, so I'm assuming most people are okay with it. But if you have any issues, go to a low plank instead. That's totally fine. But a high high plank. It really just means your hands and your feet. It's like you were going to do a push-up, but you're not doing a push-up. You're just holding it here. So a low plank would be on the forearms like this. So that's the difference between the low plank and the high plank. You do want your hand directly below your shoulder. Okay, so what I mean by that is, see how that's straight up and down, hand under shoulder? Not push, now that's not. My hands are pushing forward. What tends to happen is that forward position tends to happen when people's butts are too high. So if I have poor form and my butt's way up here, now my hands are way in front of my shoulders. But if I fix my form and I get my hips down the way a plank should look, watch what naturally happens. Oh, boop. Now my hands are directly under my shoulders. We also don't want to be sunken down. That's bad too. So nice and level. Keep your neck looking, or your head looking down so you have a neutral neck. Yeah, a little rough on the hands, so you might want a mat because that's a little turfy. You can do this on knees, just like a regular elbow plank. It would look like this, but just make sure you're not doing hips up too high and just turning it into a tabletop, because if your hips aren't level like this and you're creating that nice diagonal shape, you're not engaging your abs. Just doing this isn't doing anything at all. So you have to scoot your knees back, get that butt down a little. Now you're doing a plank on the knees. Totally fine. And there's always an incline option, of course. For anyone staying off the floor, grab a bench or a box. And this is our incline option. Again, though, not this. Pushing your hands into something hands way far in front of your body. Not a lot of core engagement, some, not a ton. But also it's kind of jerking the shoulders back in this. It's kind of like jacking the shoulder this way. We don't want that. We want alignment. So you want your hands still underneath the shoulders. All right. So high plank this week for some core. Agility ladder is the next station. I'm going to have an imaginary one, honestly, because I just don't want to get it out, and I'm not even lying. Because it's going to be a tangled mess. Okay, so most of our participants know the agility ladder. We're going to do the in, out, out steps. Okay, so normal ladder in front of you, step in, that was out. That's hilarious. Okay, step in, out of each rung. And that's the pattern. When you get to the end, turn around and you can go back the other way. You know, I shouldn't talk away from you though. Just keep getting to the end, turn around, go back. Get to the end, turn around, go back. But again, in, out. So it's footwork, it's agility. You're staying light on the balls of your feet. Your knees are always kind of bent to have that cushiony landing. Your body should be kind of making this type of pattern, not like harsh stomping. The goal is to try to not step on any of the rungs. So that's the agility component and the control component. Picking up your feet. This agility ladder is great for that. So you're trying not to like bump into the ladder and mess it up. It's okay if you do, but it just gives your that proprioception, knowing where your feet are and knowing how to properly pick them up to avoid stepping on the ladder. And once you get a little speed picked up, it'll be a little bit of cardio as well. Last station, we do this a lot because they are very, very important, high quality, what's the word? They just do a lot for us, and I can't think of the word that means that. Effective exercise, RDLs, Romanian deadlifts. So we did them with dumbbells a couple weeks ago. We're going to go back to a kettlebell this week. Okay, pick a heavy kettlebell. Please don't be afraid to pick a challenging kettlebell, because this is very different than doing something like a row or a press. This is using your entire posterior chain. So everything from your upper, middle, and lower back to your glutes to your hamstrings. So it's using all of that together. So you can go a little heavier. I promise you, it'll be okay. Okay. That said, got your kettlebell, loose grip on the kettlebell. It doesn't have to be a death grip. You can just kind of have it in like the little tips of your fingers. Okay. Biggest thing with a kettlebell deadlift though is please don't let your shoulders round forward. It's the only kind of iffy thing about using a kettlebell as opposed to two separate dumbbells, because your hands are right in front of you. So try not to excessively like round your shoulders in. So kind of open up those shoulders, kind of open up the chest. That's the first step. Soft bend in the knees, stick your butt out, okay? Your hips should shift back. If your hips are starting here, they should end like here, okay? Watch. Here's where I'm saying my butt should end. Let's see if it ends about here. Haha, it did. Because you're shifting it's a hinge. You're hinging your hips back. Back very, very flat. What we don't want to see is this. That's a rounded back and that's icky. That's just all the wrong things are happening there. Nothing positive is happening if that's your body position, okay? There's no nice way to say that. But if we have that flat back, hips are hinging, all the good stuff's happening, all the positive effects, okay? Soft bend in the knees, your body weight should be in your heels. You should almost feel like you're like gonna tip backwards like I just did. If you feel like your body weight's tipping slightly backwards, you're on the right track because you're sinking your weight back. Okay, we talk about these a lot. So I know for our regular participants, you've heard all of that spiel like 5,000 times. So, but it's good reminders, right? That's our finale. That's for station number 9, although some of you probably started with that one. So anyway, but all right. So let's go next to our team builder. All right, team builder. This is going to be so fun, and it was inspired because of the sliders from the exercise in the routine. It's going to be a slider race, okay? And I think all the clubs have multiple sets of these, so I think we're going to be okay. You're going to split into 2 teams, okay? All right. You're going to put these under your feet. We're basically just going to see what team finishes first, having every participant in each team going down and back the length of your turf. And we're just sliding. I'm going to go around the camera. Okay. That's it. Okay. So you're sliding your feet, kind of like, did anyone have the old Nordic track machine from like the 90s where you like did this jazz with the thing? It kind of feels like that. Anyway, so you're not picking up your feet. You're not walking, you're not running. If you pick up your feet, you're going to leave, you're going to leave the slider behind. So you got to figure out how to slide those feet with enough firmness on the floor to bring the slider with you. Down and back the turf will be kind of a trek, so I think it'll be interesting. This one's going to be super fun, but it's using those hip flexors in a different way. It's using those quads in a different way. So it's going to be activating some different muscles. That's always a good thing, and I think it'll be a little aerobic as well. So let's have fun. Cheer on the people on your team. It's a team effort. Yeah, all right, that's our team builder. Okay, so that's week 24. Hope everyone has a good time. It is a little bit long with the 9 stations, so let's see how it goes. And I'll see you back next week.